Today, you'll get a summary of experiences from my professional and private life on the topic of mentoring. When leaving this talk, you will have either received guidelines when it comes to mentorship or be motivated enough to go seek out a mentor who will help you take the next step in your professional career. In preparation for this talk, former and current mentees from 1337 were interviewed, and you'll get a recollection of 3 of their experiences. My name is MYAD TAHAJODY. I'm a software developer based in Lund. I have a wonderful family, a wife and a 3-year-old daughter, and together we live outside of Lund. I try to balance my life between work, fun excursions, obligatory dinners with extended family, and martial arts. My experiences range from earning my black belt in Taekwondo as a 15-year-old and start coaching classes, to a year in the military as a squad commander. I have a couple of years worth of team lead roles, and I've twice mentored students doing master's thesis. At 1337, we're on our 2nd year now with mentorship sessions. So it turns out that motivating a group of Taekwondo practitioners and a group of military adepts is quite simple. The rules of engagement are clear, and we're all at the same place at the same time. Any commands given are clear as day. In Taekwondo, if the coach says, counter with a back kick, or in the military, if the instructor says, drop down and give me 20, there's a lot of hidden information in those sentences. What, where, when, why, who, how much are all answered. Either you do as you're told, or you might end up failing. And the consequences for failing are almost always immediate. In Taekwondo, you might end up losing your fight, or in the military, you might fail a future mission due to poor physical conditioning. In software development, things aren't always that dramatic. What you should do, when you should do it, and how is a lot more difficult to answer. The why is also something that isn't externally forced on you anymore. There's a lot more pressure for the motivation to come from the inside. Understanding where this motivation comes from is key to make your mentee succeed. Also, understanding which leadership style here is needed. So you might ask your mentee to perform a task or else punish them with push-ups, but I'm not sure that's going to work out. So let's look at 2 ways to assess what might motivate your mentee. Moving motivators is a set of 10 cards where each card represents an intrinsic motivator of people in an organization. Intrinsic motivators come from within yourselves, and they motivate you to reach a goal without the promise of an external reward. This practice takes about 15 minutes, and it allows for interesting discussions, and you might get some insights as to what goes on in your mentee's mind. And once you're finished, you get to know what they value in a work environment. So what you need to do is you rank these 10 cards in order of importance, and you ask your mentee to use their gut feeling. Do they value power over freedom, status over relatedness, or honor over mastery? Then you discuss why you put the top 3 and the bottom 3 cards where you put them. And now you can start to mix things up. So you ask them a question like, say you were to move out of town for an assignment for 6 months or a year. How would that affect your ranking? And now you can switch positions. So the mentor is doing the ranking and the mentee is questioning you. MBTI. Have you heard of this one? It's a model for breaking down each and every one of us in this room and all the other 8 billion people on this planet into just 16 personalities. How convenient. So you can take the test on their website And it's going to end up with putting you in the same category as celebrities or famous people from history. So it turns out that I'm a lot like Gordon Ramsay, Whoopi Goldberg, and Doctor Strange from Marvel Comics. Now, it has been criticized for being not much more than a fortune cookie or having the same accuracy as a horoscope. Also, studies have found that if you retake the test, you might get different results each time. I think it's a nice tool for getting to know your mentee, and you can use it for discussions. But don't get too invested in the model. As any model, I think there's a lot more nuance to people and what governs them in their everyday lives, and this can't be answered by these types of models. Remember that the person sitting across from you is shaped by all kinds of events and experiences in their lives up until the point that you start your mentorship program. The reason I bring this model up is because it's going to allow for interesting conversations, and you might get some valuable insights as to what motivates your mentee in a work environment. Now let's meet our first mentee, and in the spirit of GDPR, I've named her after my daughter's current favorite, Peppa. Peppa started as a mentee after 3 years of university studies, and she felt that she learned more during her first 3 months than her whole time at uni. But the mentorship experience was a bag of mixed feelings. Imposterism started to get the better of her. She felt that at any moment, management would call her out on her inabilities as a programmer. Due to these feelings, she felt the need to catch up and work overtime to brush up on her skills. Imposter syndrome is a common issue among software developers. If you're new to the industry, you might benefit from doing some research on your own. And I can recommend this video from TED Ed. I'm not going to play it for you, but I can sum it up for you in 3 points. So, talking about your feelings might help you. You are not alone with your feelings, and you're probably doing better than you think. Now back to Peppa. When she started with the mentorship program, she was told that in the future she was to pass a technical assessment. She quickly found out that she was learning more on the job than during her mentorship sessions. And when dealing with specific topics, she was told who she could talk to, and she started picking their brains instead. In retrospect, it was through these informal meetings and the everyday grind with senior colleagues that she learned the most. This way, the de facto mentor had full understanding of the topic, and they could notice on what parts she was struggling. Finally, Peppa told me that if she could wish for one thing for future mentees, is that they be placed on the same assignment. Let's talk about listening. It's very important. And a great mentor doesn't just listen and nod their head. They give you their full attention and they understand what you're really saying. And in this age of text and call and meeting notifications, we aren't short of distractions. As a mentor, you should dedicate your full attention to your conversation. I can't put into words the disappointment I feel when I'm talking to a colleague and I see their eyes drifting away, only to get generic responses like and ah. And I need to say this as well. If you are approached by your mentee or a colleague, put away your phone. Look away from your screen. Look into the eyes of your mentee. And in the age of remote meetings, this is translated to keep the video chat focused at all times. Don't look at other stuff while you're listening. You might think that you're being sneaky or productive, but you're being neither. There's also a difference between active listening and passive listening. As a mentor, you should be practicing your active listening skills. So you need to fully concentrate on the conversation and repeat what you perceive as being key points and ask if you understood them correctly. If both of you do this, it's going to lead to a dialogue where you learn from each other, and it's going to help you build an engaging relationship. As a mentee, active listening can be the difference between fully understanding a topic versus just having heard of it the next time it comes up. Passive listening is more suited to this dynamic we have going on here, where you in the audience process this talk at your own pace. If you all interrupted me and asked if you understood me correctly and repeated what I said, this talk would instantly turn into chaos. So active listening is part of a process of how we connect, and it's called building rapport. We do this subconsciously with people that we spend a lot of time with. We are social animals, genetically programmed to seek out and build trust to others of our kind. And an important aspect of communication is body language. So how you respond physically to a conversation can greatly affect the feelings around it. It's common that we mirror our colleagues' posture and facial expressions and general energy level. So we listen actively, we mirror their body language, and we try to find common ground. And in the workplace, the work is usually the common ground, or padel. And building rapport will help you create a safe environment for you and your mentee where any topic is welcome and no questions are dumb. It's going to help you stay honest and transparent with each other, and it might help you build a lasting relationship. Now let's talk about goals. Goals will help you transform a desired future into something actionable. And the goals you create should ideally be shaped by the pair of you. So you together formulate a plan where you follow up on the progress and you clearly define what expectations you have. So you discuss these and you verify them by both so that no surprises await when you follow up. This way, it's been very clear for the both of you how you've been progressing. In agile software development, we get parts of this for free in the form of a backlog, sprint planning, retrospectives, task estimation, etc. But for a mentorship program, we might need other models. There's a simple yet powerful model developed in the 80s, which is called GROW. That's a quite nifty acronym. So the G stands for goal. What is it that we want to achieve? And what time frame are we thinking? From experience, clearly define the end goal of your mentorship. And you can break it down from there. Is the program spanning 6 months? Where are we in 6 months? Now define some checkpoints. Your goals, when broken down, should be SMART. Another nifty acronymception here. So specific, we just mentioned this one. When you take a larger goal and break it down into chunks, they become more specific. Measurable, how do you know that the goal was achieved? Use data or set a clear definition of done. Attainable means that you can actually achieve your goal. Relevant is that it is aligned to the overall picture. And time-bound, so you set a realistic end date for your goal. For example, in 6 months' time, I as a mentee should be a certified cloud developer for a specific provider. This is a great overall goal. It's measurable, it's attainable, relevant, and time-bound. But taking on a mountain of a task like this can be rather daunting. So we break it down. Does the certification involve 6 different modules? Now we can set 1 module per month. Does each module involve tasks or reading material? Now we can break it down into weeks, and we follow up on the progress after a couple of weeks rather than after 6 months when it's already too late. So the GROW model starts with the goals, and then we do a reality check. What's the current status? What level are we at? Maybe the mentee already has some experience in cloud computing, or maybe they just graduated from university. So this step helps mentors understand and analyze hidden needs with the mentee. Maybe before jumping onto cloud computing, we can arrange a session together where we set up a Raspberry Pi and try to run a server from it, just to understand and give us some insights on how cloud computing makes our lives easier. Sorry. And for options, we ask ourselves, what options do we have to achieve our goal? Does the cloud provider offer courses along with their certification? Or do we have to find the material ourselves? Are there books to read, or is everything online? So we identify and explore the different options to reach our goal, and we can make informed decisions. For example, this specific cloud provider, they offer their own education platform, but there's a known profile on YouTube which covers the same topic with a free playlist. So which one do you choose? And lastly, we agree on and commit to action that take us closer to our goal. We determine how we want to follow up and what tools we want to use. Keep this transparent as well, so that you both feel ownership of this process. And there aren't a shortage of tools out there. A simple online sheet or a Trello board could be very useful, and it's something to gather around each meeting when you do the follow-up. Using, for example, a Trello board with a simple Scrum layout, you might get a sneak peek into how the majority of software engineering projects are set up and managed. So we could have a backlog column, an in-progress column, a review column, and a done column. Each major task is what's called an epic, and each epic is broken down into smaller tasks. The in-progress column also helps us see how much work we're currently doing, so that we can plan to avoid having too many tasks all competing for our attention. Let's talk about feedback. Feedback is great. You should give and ask for feedback very often. We are suckers for feedback, and it's such an easy way of lifting someone up from them having a bad day. So we're going to try this live now. Give me some feedback on this presentation.
Doing great.
Let me see here. We will follow the results live. Oh, sorry. There you go. Great job, buddy. Pick up your phones. Give me some feedback. Do you have the link? I'm sorry?
It's the lead code.
Yeah, it's the lead code link. Oh, you're making me blush. Noise. Okay. Thanks a lot for your feedback. I really appreciate it. Let's look at some examples here. Great job, buddy. That's a nice one. The thing is, you're not helping me if I face a similar situation in the future. So, great job, buddy, isn't telling me what it is I'm doing that is great. And why am I your buddy? Exactly. Let's go back to the slides. So, feedback is meant to help you learn from an experience with the purpose of redirecting or reinforcing certain behavior. And you don't give feedback to someone based on their personality. And you don't make assumptions based on what you perceive. You give feedback on what they actually did. So you give your view of the situation and you communicate what you saw or what you felt. And you need to do this with the timing in mind as well. If the situation is hectic, maybe wait a moment. If you wait too long, you might risk forgetting what you wanted to bring up. So let's look at an example. We're having lunch together, and there's a heated discussion that you are not a part of. I start rolling my eyes, raising my voice, and interrupting person B. Naming is hard. So if this is the first time that it happens, you might lighten the mood with a joke and we all go on with our lives. But if this happens regularly, I imagine that you want to make it stop. So you take me aside and you tell me, I don't like it when you get angry. Please stop. I don't take this to heart and I get defensive. I wasn't angry, I was upset. And now we're going down a rabbit hole of definitions, which isn't going to improve anything. Why did this happen? Because you made an assumption and you told me to stop. If you instead described what you witnessed using neutral words, there wouldn't have been a discussion. I noticed that you rolled your eyes and you were raising your voice and interrupting B. There's no grounds for discussion here. You can also add a constructive comment on how you might want to see some improvements. So the next time you notice that you're raising your voice, tell B that you don't wish to discuss this at the moment. And when receiving feedback, there's a model as well. No acronym this time. It's known as the feedback staircase, and it describes the 5 steps or feelings that we might feel when receiving feedback. So we start with the deny step, where we fail to recognize the issue. Defend is where we deflect the blame. Explain, we try to justify our behavior. Understand is where we are open to discuss and contemplate on the situation. And finally, we reach a decision to either change or remain, because not all feedback is valid, honestly. There are also some challenges with feedback. So we might be buddies, and the feedback that you give me, I won't take it to heart and I'll brush it off easier. Also, I've let it affect our friendship each time, so you might be reluctant to give me feedback. Second is, my perception of self does not match your perception. Maybe raising my voice isn't a problem for me. Maybe I don't even notice it myself. Now, the secret sauce to lifting your mentee is the timely opposite of feedback, and it's known as feed forward. With feedback, we look at something that has already happened, and we try to divert or reinforce the behavior behind it. With feed forward, we anticipate an outcome based on previous experiences. So there are some prerequisites here. You need to know the person. And we give them some hype before they're about to embark on their tasks. So some of my colleagues, used feed forward with me before this presentation. I was in a slight panic state, and you told me, you have no reason to be nervous, you know what you're talking about, and you back it up with the experience. So thank you to you. Now let's meet our second mentee, and also inspired by current obsessions at home, we're going to call him Alphonse. When Alphonse was hired, he didn't have an assignment straight away. He felt that the mentorship program made total sense at this point. And the goal was for him to be assigned a client without a senior colleague. In itself, that's a bit fuzzy, but it means that the client is happy and pleased with the value that you bring. When he later did get an assignment, he ended up alone while being a mentee. So he felt 2 things. Firstly, he was overwhelmed because the help he needed was on his assignment. He needed hands-on help. Second, he was confused as to why he was a mentee with the goal of being able to be alone at the client, and he was alone at the client. So this made him work harder and put in extra hours to deliver on the expectations he felt were there. He was later reassigned and placed together with a senior colleague, and he then felt an enormous weight was removed from his shoulders. Overall, Alphonse was very pleased with the support he got from his mentor. And he enjoyed the group discussions that they had with the mentorship sessions. But if he could change one thing for future mentees, is that the mentorship moved to an on-site mentorship once you get an assignment. So if you're considering becoming a mentor, you're probably very passionate about your work and you feel like you want to give back to the community, and that's great. In the best of worlds, this passion of yours triggers a positive feedback loop where you pick each other up when you're down. And this is kind of difficult to give concrete pointers for, but imagine the case where you have a mentor who keeps all your interactions short and efficient, and it seems like they're very busy all the time. Now, imagine a mentor that is energetic and full of ideas when meeting week after week. Now, I'm not saying that the workload should fall on the mentor and that they should work overtime just to keep the mentee inspired. I'm just saying that it helps if you actually dedicate your time to this. As a mentor, stay playful and curious. Try new things. We are not all-knowing. We are not perfect. We are there to learn as well. Challenge your mentee with topics that interest the both of you. And don't be afraid of saying, I don't know, but we'll figure it out together. You can also challenge your mentee by saying, I actually have no experience of this specific topic. Could you please give me a presentation in 2 weeks so that I get to learn as well? So here's my daughter. She's 3 years old and she loves to ride her bike. Her bike has these side wheels and a rod poking out from the back, which I can hold on to. Sometimes I barely hold it, but it's enough for her to know that I'm there. But when she picks up speed and starts nearing an obstacle, I feel the need to catch up and guide her to safety. So only when needed, I interfere with her bike riding and avoid a crash. As a mentor, you have a similar role. The mentee is doing all the work. They're the ones pedaling the bike. They choose the pace and the direction. You, the mentor, you have the ability to see and plan further ahead so that they stay on the right path. And the word empower has been used a lot today, but you really should empower your mentee and enable them to achieve their goals. Remember, it's not the purpose that you finish their tasks for them or that they solely rely on you for making progress. Commitment from both sides is needed, otherwise you're wasting each other's time. There are a lot of ways where you could be of help. For example, share your best books, your online resources, set them up with another colleague that has special skills. So we've been talking a while about traits of a great mentor. Now let's see what makes a great mentorship experience. And I'm going to say the magic words. It depends. But it really does depend on a number of factors. How many mentees do you have? How many colleagues are available for mentoring? Is this a one-on-one thing? At 1337 in Lund, we're in the second year of running dedicated mentorship groups now. So it has us matching 3 senior colleagues with 3 junior colleagues. And together we meet each week, 1 week in a group setting, 1 week doing one-on-ones. Both years we've started with a book club, but we quickly noticed that as soon as the mentees got their first assignments, the participation rate decreased. We'd start a session by asking some questions on the book, and then one would come clean. I'm sorry, I haven't read the book for this week, but I promise to catch it up for the next session. They never did though. But this was the case for both mentors and mentees, so we were all at fault here. So then we shifted our focus to instead discuss current issues and problems that they face. And interestingly, most questions that came up weren't specific technical issues. They were abstract issues. What are my responsibilities? What's the expectations that the client has? How should I prioritize my tasks? Now, we're a consultancy firm, so sometimes it happens that when we hire you, there's some time between your starting date and your first assignment date. We use this time to brush up on our skills, and we get hands-on experience for the wilderness that awaits. So after a brief technical evaluation, we can discuss what skills we want to strengthen and what gaps we want to close. Now the mentee gets to choose a hobby project. So this way they're doing something that they like and they're in control of the situation. They get to plan and prioritize their work together with their mentor. And when giving them tasks like this, keep the bar at a reasonable level. This quote is quite powerful. Perfect is the enemy of good. It's better to do something. Just do something. Rather than holding off and never doing it because it's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect anyway. So let's meet our final mentee. And this one is named after my sister's favorite when she was a kid, Elsa. Elsa had a lot of experience before starting as an apprentice, just not in software engineering. Communication and social skills were her thing. And believe me when I say, it's very much needed in our industry. Elsa was hired as an apprentice, and she felt that everywhere at work she was labeled as such. This made her feel inferior, as if the word apprentice was tattooed on her forehead, which made her feel lesser in a sense. She was very happy with her mentor though. Her mentor made sure to lift her in public. When he was asked about problems, he referred to Elsa. When it was more difficult topics, he made sure to include her in his answers anyways, by saying, yeah, me and Elsa will help you with this problem. He then helped both Elsa and the colleague, and this way he made sure that Elsa could be of help in the future. And Elsa feels like everybody could use a mentor, and it doesn't have to be based on differences in seniority. You could have a mentor-mentor relationship with someone who has the exact same amount of experience as you, just in your respective specializations. Finally, she told me that she was very grateful for her first years as a software developer, and she's still working together with her mentor to this day. And summing up what the others have said, they've all been grateful for the support of their mentor. If applicable, they were grateful for the mentorship group sessions. They've all experienced worries of being insufficient or faced insecurities in their roles. Those who had a mentor on site were really happy, and those who didn't wished that they had one. So keep this in mind when you design a mentorship process, because it might help you create the best environment for your mentees to succeed. In the beginning of this talk, you were promised concrete guidelines when it comes to mentorship. To sum things up for you, get to know each other. What makes you tick? Set goals. Use feedback. Feed forward for progression. Force your mentees to do push-ups. No, I'm kidding. Treat each other with respect and dignity and hold each other in high regard. Any questions? Thank you. Yes.
If you could make one addition to our current mentorship program, what's that?
based on what the answers have been from the mentees, is that we find a way to send them to an assignment together with a senior colleague. That would be like the number one thing, because everybody has said that. Yes.
You said there was a mentee that, no, an apprentice that felt inferior.
Elsa.
Yes. How, why, and what can I do when I meet such a person to make them feel less inferior?
That was a difficult question. I don't know. Just be natural. Be yourself. Treat them as if, I mean, they are a colleague, obviously. So maybe you could use some inclusive language. Maybe you could, if you pick things up, like, okay, she's not following here, maybe explain the situation for her, not in a dumbing way, but make sure that she's a part of the gang as well, or him, for that matter. Question? Yes.
I was listening to Tina's session earlier about introvert in an extrovert world, and that got me thinking about matching mentee with mentor. What's your experience in like matching extroverts with introverts, or introverts with introverts, etc.? Is there any like secret sauce, or is the connection?
I think it comes down to personal connection in the end. You could match an extrovert with an introvert without any issues if both of them know each other after a while. So you might need to do some of these sessions that I brought up just to get to know each other. So if I'm an extrovert mentor, which I am, and I'm matched with someone who is an introvert, then I might not push them as much, or I might not be as much in their face as I would like to. Did that answer your question? Yes.
Yes, we have a question on Slack. Tommy is wondering, when starting mentoring, what traps is easy to step into?
Please repeat, please.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so the question is, when starting mentoring, what traps
Are easy to fall into?
are easy to fall into? Okay, so I would say maybe doing too little or doing too much. So you have to find this lagom like setup where if you do too little, maybe you trust them to do like be self-sufficient. And then after a month, you notice that, okay, shit, this person has not been delivering what I expected. Or if you do too much, I mean, you have to find time to spend time at your client as well and do your actual work. So there's a balance to be found there.
We have another question on Slack. Borash is wondering, let's say you've never done mentoring as a mentor before. Is there any necessary prerequisites to suggest? And please repeat the question. Any prerequisites?
When you're considering becoming a mentor, are there any prerequisites that I suggest?
Yeah.
Watch this talk. No, but honestly, it helps if you've been in a leadership situation before. If you've been coaching, I don't know, soccer kids. If you have any experience. If you don't have any experience, just be transparent. Be transparent with the mentee. This is my first mentorship experience as a mentor. If I screw up, I'm sorry. We'll try to figure something out together. Yes?
In a type of attitude, like in many IT companies in Sweden, there are many people who have come from a different culture, like myself. Do you see a way to extend the mentorship to include cultural? Because for me personally, it was difficult to learn the Swedish way, both from practical point of view, but also from a cultural point of view. I was lucky because I had someone beside me, but not in a professional context, to teach me. But for many of us, it would be a tough experience.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll try to repeat the question. So do we have a way to manage mentorship for people that are not from Swedish culture, starting in a Swedish company? Once again, be inclusive. I mean, that's the number one thing that pops into my mind. Now, 1337 is a very social company, I would say. We have a lot of events together. And if you, as someone who is from a different culture, make sure to show up on each of these events, you might get to pick up some of the Swedish ways that you were mentioning. That's about the only thing I can come to think of right now. But it's a very interesting question. I think if I were to have a mentee with a different cultural background, maybe I would do some more social things as well on the side. So one of the sessions could be that we just grab a beer at a pub, or we go play paddle, because everybody plays paddle in Sweden, obviously. Say.
I've heard previously people trying to draw a line between like mentoring and coaching, things like that. I was just curious about your thoughts around the boundaries, whether it's a little bit fuzzier than that, or I don't know, just in general.
Yeah, so the differences between mentoring and coaching. This is a tough one, honestly. From the education, leadership education that I've received, the difference would be that coaching is a lot more. I'm continuously asking you questions back. Like, you're the one who's supposed to find all the answers, and I'm trying to lead you to it. Like, but I would say that a mentor relationship could be more dynamic. I mean, I have no issues telling my mentee, this is what you should do. But I also have no issues telling them, these are the alternatives, so you can check it out for yourself. I don't know, I feel like mentoring might be a superset of coaching. Question?
Giving her a chance to choose the pace and the path.
Yeah.
You said that you can protect her because you can see obviously the obstacle.
Yeah.
With the mentoring, like between the parents, we can be overprotected, and with the mentor, we can over-empower. How can we decide that we don't empower? We see that you're making a bad decision. We should stop. But also, making bad decisions is not that. So there is a threshold, something that.
Yeah, that's true. That's a great question as well. So the question was that as a parent, it's quite black and white when they're doing something wrong, or it might lead to bodily harm when they ride their bike. But as a mentor, maybe it's good to have your mentee experience some, how do you put it, difficulties in software engineering in this case. Yeah, definitely. How do you draw the line? I would say if something is very, like, if it's going to take them a month to realize that this was the wrong path to go, then I would probably tell them in advance. But if it's something like an afternoon, then fine, go ahead, go the wrong path. You're going to figure it out during the day, then we can discuss. But in the purpose of like making the most out of the mentorship program, if it's 6 months, then you don't want them spending 3 months doing the wrong thing, and you're sitting there going like, yeah, they're gonna realize it soon. So depends. Sorry. Best word. Depends. Anders.
Do you have any advice for being a good mentee?
Coming from the best mentee. No, just commitment. You need to be committed. If you don't commit yourself as a mentee, you're not going to get anything out of the mentorship. if you don't ask questions all the time, you're not getting the full potential of the mentorship. And also, your mentor is not the only person you can contact. 1337 is great in that sense. We have Slack, and with Slack we can reach, what are we, 200, 150 developers? Instantly. Use it. Stack Overflow is nice, but sometimes the threads that we have on Slack is a lot more insightful. Don't be afraid of asking. That's also a good tip. Yes?
What got you so interested in mentoring?
What got me so interested in mentoring? Like I said, I started out as a 15-year-old. I just got my black belt in Taekwondo, and I was thinking about who inspires me, who gets me going. And I thought about my coaches. So that made me feel like, well, why can't I be like them? What is stopping me? So I just started coaching kids, grown-ups, didn't matter. Yes?
Can we have a taekwondo after work sometime?
I've actually thought of that, yeah. Let's make it happen. I think we need like a couple of signups, and then we can make it happen. Sure. Sayu.
If you're not a formal mentor, but you're kind of interested in sort of signaling that you're available for helping people in a mentoring capacity, do you have any recommendations?
So the question is, if you feel like you have the capacity of becoming a mentor, but you're not a formal mentor, how do you start? I've actually seen this online on some forums where people just write, I'm available as a mentor if anyone wants to. So you leave the question, and you leave the information there, and hopefully someone will show up. I'm not sure who is head of mentoring at 1337.
You are now.
Yeah. Let me know. I'll hook you up. Actually, it made me think of one thing, which I feel like the biggest shame of not being at the office is, especially the seniors. We're getting new consultants all the time now. We're growing. The senior colleagues have so much information that they're just sitting on at home in their comfortable whatever chair. And the newly hired consultants don't know them. We don't get to know you. Like I haven't seen half of you here, even though we all live in Lund or Helsingborg apparently. So I would love for it to be like if we had an office day where it's just open questions and discussions and stuff. But that's just me. Thank you. Okay.